So I had a bit of a space problem with my fishing poles. You can see I pulled this mess out of the garage, and it served its purpose over time, but I'm a little constrained on space. So what I went ahead and did is I built a fishing pole holder that'll hold 15 poles out of PVC, and look at the difference. So there you go. I mean, that's 15 poles I took off that rack. I'm gonna get rid of the rack, and this just takes up a lot less space. So anyway, if you want to learn how I put this together, stick around, keep watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Here's a box of fittings that I'll be using. I ordered them online, of course. There's 9 of these T's, and these will be for the 1.5" uprights. I've got corner pieces, and I've got some unique pieces. 2 of these 4-way pieces. Yeah, basically these will be the middle pieces, and you'll see how this all comes together after I got everything cut and start gluing it. Now, I'm going to glue these in a different way. I'm not going to use PVC glue. I have found that acetone makes a great glue for this type of fitting without pressure. It's not anything that's going to have water or air or anything in it. So one of the first things we got to do before we start putting this together is cut all the pieces out. I'm going to use 12 inch by 1.5 for the uprights, plus 3 2-inch by 12-inch uprights, and those will be for the big poles that are basically 2-piece poles, so I want to give them a little bit of extra room. So let me go ahead and get started. Basically going to be doing a lot of cutting to get all these fittings together. So what I want to do is give you a rough layout of what this is going to look like. I've kind of played around with placing these things and modified it a little bit. But I'll show you more or less what it's going to end up looking like. Let me go ahead and point the camera down here and give you a view of what it's going to be like when we get it assembled. So here's the layout. This is what I'm going to use to assemble these. Everything will be butted up against each other except the pieces that go from front to back as you see them. There'll be 12 1.5" uprights and 3 2-inch uprights across the middle. So to get these together, I'm going to go ahead and cut a 2-inch piece of PVC for a quick test fit. Let's see how this 2-inch piece works. If I can get them together and get a little bit of glue in there, it'll work fine. And you're going to be surprised at how I glue this. Alright, I've got these 2 pieces here. And what I'm going to use as a glue is acetone. Surprisingly enough, I've done a few experiments with PVC and it works pretty well. So the first thing I'm going to do is get these 2 together, and I'm probably going to have to make sure they're oriented properly. I want them to be oriented identical. I'm just putting these in temporarily because I want them to have identical orientation. So let's do this. We'll let it dry and we'll come back and see. I'm so patient. Alright, it's been about 2 minutes and this time it worked, and what I did was I spread it apart, put the glue in, and then I put it together. Alright, that's going to be straight. Alright, so that worked. We've got one side, other than the end pieces, set up. This is going to be a pretty neat pole holder. I'm going to go ahead and cut all the other 2-inch pieces that I need. Then I'll cut some of these down to 4 inches too, and start putting it together. It should be fun. Alright, so all the pieces are cut out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one complete side and walk you through what I've done and what I'm going to do to complete that side. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's the piece that I've already done, and what I'm going to do is add 2 corners to it. So these are not glued in yet, but they'll help guide the whole system when I glue it together, so that everything's flush, nice and flat. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these in there, and it's really simple. Just gonna use these 2-inch couplers. Start them off. Get some acetone on both sides. Get a nice seep, and you've got a limited amount of time to work, so get that in there. Make sure it's flush to everything else. Let's get the other side. Same concept, get a bunch of acetone in here, and set it in there, make sure it's lined up correctly. Give it a minute to dry. Then I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to level out all those tubes. So let me do that real quick. And what I'm doing is just making sure all the tubes are the same, or at least as close as possible. And after that, what I'm going to do is drip some acetone in there. And that acetone is a solvent, and it will dissolve PVC, and this will actually become a pretty good glue. Now, I don't recommend you use this if you're going to do any kind of pressure work. So while these are setting, I'm going to go ahead and do the adapters for the middle pieces. Now everything's 1.5 inches, and I want those three risers in the middle to be 2 inch. So what I've done is I've got some adapters, and the way this will work is I've got a 1.5 inch, which will fit this little 2-inch slug, if you will, and then I've got a 2-inch coupler. And basically going to glue all these together, get them ready so I can build the middle section out. When I build the middle section out, I got to be real careful that it matches up with the 2 ends on here, so that way when I try to glue it all together, I'm not going to have any issues with you know, being 1/8 of an inch off or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get these adapters done real quick. So these are fairly easy. Really what I'm doing, start with one. I started putting I put a little coupler in there. I'm just going to bang it in as far as it'll go. Run some acetone around it to act as glue, and then the 2-inch coupler will go on top. We'll do the same thing. Run some glue, and there you go. So now we've got a 2-inch adapter. A 1.5 to 2-inch adapter. Here. And there we go. Those are our 2-inch adapters. These will be connected with same as these guys. And let me go ahead and do those real quick. So I just wanted to show you, this has had about 5 minutes to dry, and these things are firmly in place. Again, the acetone is a solvent, and it'll glue PVC joints in place. It's not it's definitely not recommended for anything that's going to hold pressure. So anyway, let me get started with the middle piece. I'm not gluing any of this together just yet. Basically, I want to make sure everything fits correctly. Now, all of this should fit together correctly. I'm just concerned that these 4 ways may have a little bit of a different amount of distance. I don't think they will, but we'll find out. Let's get these all ready for setup and gluing. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and glue these together, simply because if I have to do any adjustments, I'll do them on the outside pieces. And of course, need to glue those. This is going to be interesting. They need to sit like so. So my concern holds true. If you look, I'm going to have to trim the inside of this tee, because if I hold this in flush, I don't know if you can see that, it's about a 1/4 inch off. So, and that's what I was worried about. So let's take this one off. Yeah, I'll run it through the bandsaw. And basically what I'm going to do is just take off about a 1/4 inch. And I'll do it on both of them. It'll give me a little bit of leeway. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and redo this. But what I need to do is make sure that it lines up with this guy. And the way I'm going to do that, just temporarily mount this together. And then I'm not going to glue this in on the other end. I'm just going to bang these together until it looks like there's a match, and then double check the match. Nothing's going to get glued just yet though. Alright, so that's going to work. This is glued. Everything in the middle is glued. Everything on this end is glued. These two are not, and I'm not going to glue them just yet. I am going to install these uprights for the end pieces. Get those in there. If you wonder why I'm using the flat side of the mallet, is so that it doesn't mar the edges, at least not too much. I'm going to put some glue in here, then I'm going to take a break and come back and we'll finish this. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get the final side done for another 5 poles. I've got everything I need here. And I'll go ahead and start by getting these tees in here. Actually didn't even need the hammer for that one. One thing about cutting PVC on saws, man, is like there's a ton of dust on everything, and it's impossible to get rid of because it's got so much static electricity. I won't glue the uprights in just yet. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to go ahead and rough assemble this and just measure it, make sure it lines up with the other piece, because it would really suck if it didn't. So this means that I have to scrunch it together. And it'll be hell to pay to get it off, of course. And just make sure it lines up. That's the key thing. Because if it don't, then I'm going to have to start sawing crap. And these are the 4-inch pieces. Putting everything together here. And we'll just run some acetone down these seams here. I'll give you a close-up. So the acetone wicks in there pretty good. I've hardly used any acetone at all. This was full, 30 mLs. I'm down to 15. So literally, it's only used 15 ml of acetone so far. And again, the acetone will do a nice solvent weld in here. Just don't use it for anything that's pressure related, because it won't hold. You'll have a disaster on your hands. The last thing I got to do is these uprights. I think I got it mostly all glued. Let's double check. So that, my friends, is it. I've got my pole holder, and I'm pretty pleased with the way this has turned out. It's actually got some weight behind it, so I'm not worried about it tipping. I originally was going to make it everything all flush together, but I thought about it, and I didn't want any chance of this tipping over in any direction. It's definitely not going to tip over front to back. So I'm pretty pleased with the way this has turned out, and I'll go ahead and start moving my poles over here and give you a shot of what that looks like. I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, hit share, like, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.